Hello, hello. Welcome to Human Design Coffee Talk. And today we are meeting with Aligned Readings, Nafeesa Islam, and we're going to talk about flow. So hop on in, join us. We got some Sacral Generator action today. Teresa will be hopping on in a second. Here we go. Hello, hello. And say hi as you're hopping in. Hello.
Hey, everybody. What's going
Hello,
on?
hello. As you're joining us, twinning. What? What color tank top are you wearing?
I'm wearing a
Okay.
onesie
Perfect.
jumpsuit.
Okay, we're not too matchy.
It's not too much.
Hello, hello, everybody.
Hey.
You can let us know anything you want to tell us about your design. We love to know who's joining us. And I'm half blue.
You're blued. How are you feeling?
Great. I just popped an MB about an hour ago. And I was like, yeah, I'll just brush my teeth with vinegar and blah, blah, blah before. And time ran out.
Do you want to tell people what that is for people that don't know?
Methylene Blue. It is kind of a supplement. I don't know how to describe it. It helps improve oxygenation in the body and the blood. It helps brain function. It's kind of like a nootropic. Disclaimer, it's not for everybody. If you're on an SSRI, I am not prescribing anything or telling you what to do, but if you have a response or here's your invitation to go look it up.
Do your own research.
Do your own research. But I was sick Friday through yesterday-ish, and it helps with recovery, especially like fatigue. It's incredible for that. So the things that I use are little tablets, and you stick it in your cheek, and it sublingually goes in, so it stains because it's really blue. Another fascinating thing about it is they use it in fish tanks and to help treat fish, but then there's great controversy about humans using it for the same benefits. Weird.
It's interesting how that happens.
Weird. Kind of like dewormer. Anyway.
Just jumping right into the controversy.
Topic for another
Gate
day.
39. I've used Methylene Blue and I really enjoy it for the nootropic benefits. I've never used it when I've been sick, but
yeah, it totally helps me with like focus, my brain. I mean, it just like sharpness. Mm-hmm. So I thought I saw Nafeesa join, but I don't see a request. So maybe I didn't. Sammy, what did you just come into? Just talking about controversial things, about how sometimes things can be used for some species, and then when another species tries to use them for the same thing, it's called a conspiracy. That's why we have our strategy and authority. That's why we have our internal guidance system. For me, I see what I respond to, and if I respond to something, and it's a yes, I'm going to try it regardless of what it's for. How you ate an alien on the side of your mouth. I did.
I ate a Smurf.
I ate a Smurf.
Smurf alien. It lived a good life. It was its time to go.
It did. It did. Usually you can get rid of the blue. Teresa told me with like vinegar and baking soda, or just vinegar?
Yeah, you have to swish your mouth with first baking soda and then vinegar.
Yeah. No, I'm turning into a Navi. That's what's happening. Avatar is going to come out at the end of this year. It's my favorite movie ever, and I've always wanted to be a Navi.
Oh my God, I saw that. You know what we were talking about is like, because I watched that movie, I think last time I came to see you, I watched it on the plane. And I was like, damn, when this movie first came out, the graphics were like insane. And now the graphics It looked like I was watching like a kid's cartoon
Oh,
show.
how do you send a request? So there's a little thing that looks like a camera with a plus sign, and you'll click that, and you can send a request to join. I watched Avatar on the plane to see you last week.
Yeah, I'm super excited for the new one. It looks like it's like water because I was like, oh, it's like they're in the ocean.
Dude, Avatar like hits me on a soul level. Like I don't know what it is. Like cellularly, I
Mhm.
can't help but to be like so enmeshed with it. I'm like, why? Especially when they're around the tree doing the thing, and I'm like, oh, just bawling, you know. And I'm native, so it's like maybe that's why it's
Yeah.
woven in my blood. And I'm just like, that's how we heal, people. That's what we
Yep.
need to do. We all need to sit around a fucking tree, touching each other and doing this.
And then all of our problems would go away.
Interesting how our conversation today is about flow because we just hopped right into a weird flow.
Right into flow. That's what we
All
do
right,
here.
here we go. I've got a request. All right, and as she's hopping on, I just want to tell everybody that if you have any questions, there is a Q&A box. Sometimes the comment section like gets stagnant or freezes, or we're so in flow and conversation that we don't see your questions. So if you want to make sure that your question gets seen, drop it in the Q&A box. If you leave the chat, your question goes with you. So if you're hoping to drop a question and then come back and hear if it was answered, it won't be because it disappears when you disappear. So on to the show.
On to the show.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are
Good.
you?
How are you?
Good. Well, actually, so right before this, I wanted to bring coffee for coffee talk, and we have instant coffee, and I didn't use a spoon to put it in, so I just poured it, and obviously it came out in a clump. So I think as this goes on, I'm just gonna get more and more hyper.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
I'm already on
We're
cup
here for
2,
it.
so
Yeah.
I normally don't do that, but I had a freaking terrible headache the last 24 hours, and then I realized I didn't have coffee yesterday, and now I think I'm addicted to it again because I woke up and I was like, that's what it is. It's because I didn't have coffee, and sure as shit, as soon as I drank some, headache gone. So, you know, part of that coffee addict club now. But
I know. I went and visited Teresa in Phoenix last week, and she's like, was making a cold brew with cream and simple syrup, and I was like, ooh. So I started making it. Now I'm addicted, and today I'm having coffee and eggnog.
yeah, nice.
such a refreshing summer beverage.
Yeah, I've been having it since 8th grade. It's not good.
I mean, you know, the way I look at it is I have ADHD and I don't take medication because coffee helps me. It's like just enough stimulant where I don't feel like I mean, I took medication in college and I hated it. So this is just enough to get me like able to function. So whatever.
I respond to it, so I'm just going with it. Sometimes
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I always respond to it, even much so.
All right.
it.
Well,
You know,
oh, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna jump right in. I'm like, we should maybe do some like introductions.
Yeah,
I don't know.
introductions.
It's like I have questions.
Let's do an introduction. Yeah. So let us know who you are, a little bit about your design, whatever else you want to let us know right away.
Sure. I'm Nafeesa. Let's see. 1-4 Sacral Generator. 3 channels. So I have Channel of Awareness, and then I've got Design of Custodianship, so the 2750, and then the 2038, which I think
Both of us.
The 2838, but then 2750, do you,
Me.
Brandy, you have that too? Yeah. So, yeah, stuff going on here and stuff going on down there, which I feel like is probably one of the reasons why, like, I kind of found all this stuff, because I'm always trying to connect my head with my body, like the mind. or the mind and the body. It's just once I realized what my design was, yep, that's all I'm trying to do at every moment. It's just like quiet this and listen to my body. So
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I think I guess. Can I make a guess? Not just based on watching you both a little bit for your
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah, you're kind of cutting in and out.
oh, okay.
I wonder if you're connected to Wi-Fi. Sometimes if people turn their Wi-Fi off, it works better on their phone. I don't know.
That make it
Sometimes there we go.
There we go.
okay.
Just had a nice little spit trail.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Still a little cutting out. Is it just me, Teresa? Is she cutting out for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope. How about that? Is that better?
I mean, we can hear you.
Okay.
It just has a little lag.
Okay.
I feel like we can make do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mercury retrograde. This kind of shit's gonna happen, right?
Yeah, in one of my stories, I said Mercury was in Gatorade. And then I had some friends who aren't into sign or astrology or anything. Like, wait, is that a real thing? Mercury in Gatorade? I was like, no, that was a joke. But so what else to say? I'm not really sure what else to say.
You were about to say an observation.
Oh yeah. I wanted to guess both your designs, but I'm not sure. So I've obviously seen both of you around in the internet. So are you 4 and 4-6? Nice, cool. A lot of 4-line energy going on here. That's fun. And then MGs, and then Teresa, you're emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep.
That's it. That's us.
So
Cool. How did you get into design? What's your human design origin story?
yeah. Well, my mental projector friend, 2-5 mental projector, she sent me some human design information. I was like, oh, you'd really be into this. And I looked into it and I was like, this seems culty and weird. And no, thanks. And she just kept bringing it into my awareness. She was like, no, if you actually figured out what this was, you'd really like it. And so, as projectors do, she kept guiding me into it. And once I actually looked into what actually it was completely everything, not everything, but what I found out resonated really quickly. And it was kind of one of those moments where my life was so out of alignment. And it was so, I was so deeply frustrated. And it was just kind of like, oh, wow, oh no. Like I feel like a lot of times you can make daily changes when it comes to human design and make daily things. But for me, it was like, oh, I have to change everything, So it was kind of like getting hit by a truck kind of moment. And, the universe or whatever kind of, yeah, just I'd been frustrated for so long, and there were things being thrown at me. Like I was in a really abusive job situation, and I was like addicted to pills and all this stuff. So uh, it was, yeah. So it was like, oh wow, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just I'm in this horrible situation. It's been layers and layers and layers for so long of trying to force myself to be someone that I'm not for a very long time. So yeah, that's my origin story. And then yeah.
Wow. What was it like, realizing I'm really interested in the addiction thing because I've also had addiction issues, and I found that, you know, along with other therapeutic modalities, the information from human design has been really beneficial for, you know, things like, for me, it was disordered eating and alcohol, and because, you know, I have 3955, and just finding out some of that information was so helpful for me. Was it kind of similar for you?
Um, how is it helpful in particular?
So for me, it was like finally feeling like the things that I was feeling and issues that I was having, there was something that could help me make sense of it. Like, it could help my mind make sense of what I was feeling in my body.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think especially just finding out for me that I'm emotional and learning about that whole process, because for me, I was always looking to escape my emotions and numb my emotions using whatever I could, you know, whatever was most beneficial in that moment, which sometimes it was alcohol and sometimes it was eating, sometimes it was shopping, you know, things like that. And so I've just realized how much my life has simplified
Mm-hmm.
just because I've allowed myself to feel my feelings. Because before, I was trying so hard to not feel my feelings. It was like I just kept digging a deeper, deeper hole,
Yeah.
trying to get out of it instead of just going into it.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was a lot of it was I was getting into all that stuff to boost my energy almost and make me feel like, okay, if this job is bad, it's probably my energy. I need to change my energy to take this and then to get better at it and be better. And then after that, I'm gonna take this other stuff and do this other stuff to escape from the day that was my reality. And so that way it was like, oh wait, yeah, it's just even just the idea of like your energy is guiding you, especially sacrals. And if my energy isn't in it, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. It means that there's something wrong with the situation. Um,
yeah.
and I'd already known that, and I knew what I was doing was good, but I was like, this is the only option because I need to be able to get through the day. Um, so, yeah.
Yeah. And what I noticed too is a root definition
Mm,
between the three of us. We all have channel of struggle. I had addiction issues, drugs, alcohol.
yeah.
Um, but that root definition, that melancholy, that channel of struggle, like we're choosing, you know, choosing a struggle, whether it was correct or not, who knows, who cares. But it was like, I think I'd rather struggle with, if I'm going to live by doing drugs, rather than struggle with feeling the things and changing my environment, and you know, really having those like come to Jesus moments with, oh, I don't actually want to change that thing. And you have a completely open solar plexus,
Hmm.
um, and I'm undefined. And it's just like, you know, a way to like, oh, there's so many big emotions around me. What's mine? I don't know. Let's numb the thing. So lots of similarities there.
Yeah. And for me, it was also open ego stuff. It's like, okay,
Mm,
constant trying to prove myself, but also, oh, I have no sense of worth, and so, but I still need to, function during the day, and yeah, it's like at least while I was on whatever on, I was at least, even if the circumstances were the same, I still had elevated my self worth while there, just completely artificially. Um, yeah. And then undefined G, always trying to like, okay, well, I'm going to force myself to fit into the role because I am that kind of chameleon or whatever. So I can force myself to be this person. Yeah. So, wow, I don't think I've heard about this stuff before, uh, uh, to people that I don't know really well. So this is fun.
that's kind of what happens when we get on here. We just start
Yeah.
going in
Yeah.
there,
I
getting
like,
in there.
yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious how, so you said you were in a really bad job situation, and I feel like a lot of generators are in that situation right now where they're in a job where they are frustrated and they are not excited by the work that they're doing, they're not passionate. I
Hmm.
mean, the list goes on. And a lot of the ones that, you know, it's common with the generators that I work with to be like, but I'm stuck. I need this for resources. I need this for XYZ. I can't just get out of it. What was it like for you to pursue other things and kind of get out of your job situation?
Well, there was the finding human design, or being guided into human design, and then coming to terms with, oh wow, this is so wrong on all of these levels. And it was just confirmation for my mind of just like, yeah, this is bad. This is really, really bad. And so I was going to work one day and in the car, and I was like, my body was shaking. I was like, I cannot go in. Like, this is really bad. And so I called the nurse practitioner, or whatever, someone I worked with, um, and was talking to her. And I'm going to, I cannot do this. Like, this is really, really bad. And they'd all known, all of my coworkers, everything had known, and they would tell me, it's like, yeah, you have to get out. Like, we see you every day. This is really, really bad. But I was still like, no, I can, you know, the whole generator, I can stick this out. Like, what are you talking about? I have the, I'm up here, you know, I can still like get through it. Still trying to prove myself. Yes, like I will be able to do this. I will overcome it, because that's what everyone says. It's like, oh, work harder and you'll do better and you'll be more worthy, and your body you eventually, and stop being mean. And the nurse practitioner would go to this ombudsman thing, which is like a third party, uh, uh, whatever, like confidential, whatever, as part as at the institution. And so I went, and it was this 50-something-year-old man, and I went a few days later, and so I was like calmer at this point. Told him like about very objective information. He was like, okay, this is a more extreme case of workplace abuse in the workplace, and the psychological repercussions can often be worse than sexual harassment in the workplace. And he was like talking me through this, and I was like, oh, okay, like, okay, this is an objective perspective. And that really, like, I would say, initiated me out of this job situation. Like, I couldn't just stop myself. I couldn't just like be like, oh, no, nope. Because I was so far in it, and I dug myself so far in mentally,
Mm-hmm.
that yeah. And so that was like, okay, I need to get out. And then and then he suggested FMLA, which for anyone in the US, I recommended this to generators before, and I know generators who have done this before. FMLA in the US, if you're in a really bad situation, job wise, what the guy also said to me, he was like, it can be really hard to get out of jobs, especially if you're in a more abusive situation, because it's so, you have such little self-worth. It's hard to even have the time or the mental capacity to apply to other jobs.
Yeah.
So in those situations, and apply for FMLA, which is, I think, 90 days like paid time off to take care of, I think, Family Medical Leave Act, to still get paid and be able to do something else. And people use it for illness and whatever. And if it's a, you know, really bad job situation, that can be helpful as a resource. Yeah, and I know other generators who use it. And, you know, but that's a good thing to, yeah, have in your back pocket.
Wow, I didn't know about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was that 90 days like for you, being, you know,
Oh,
being free from?
I told myself, okay, it was like October, and I was no, it was November, and I was like, okay, at the end of December, if like I really, you know, like apply for things, whatever, I'm gonna do the FMLA thing. But a friend, another projector actually, uh, like knew what was going on, and she was like, oh, I have there's this job. Do you want to apply for it? And so again, I was initiated out into a new job situation, which I was in for about 6 months. Didn't love that one either, but it gave me a bridge,
Mm.
uh, to kind of feel for a little while. So yeah.
That's awesome. And like, I'm taking note of how all of this is coming through your network.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Everything
Yeah.
comes through.
What is that? So your innocence motivation, and how does that how did that feel for you? Because that, to me, that felt really like smooth. I mean, not saying it was like a smooth process for you, but you describing it, it feels like this really nice easy, um, like slow way where you don't have to push through anything, you know. And I absolutely love that FMLA because we get generators all the time that ask us like, I'm a no to my job, but what do I do? So that's a great thing to have in your back pocket to remind people about. But with your innocence motivation of, you know, with transference being desire, I don't know how deep you dig into substructure, but like, do you feel like you maintained that and that's like that kind of helped you with that ease?
Yeah, I mean, my whole I can't not be in innocence because nothing works. It just
Mm-hmm.
no, you know, like even trying to force myself, you know, I almost think of it as undefined ego stuff. It's like uh, when I try to push in that desire or like push an agenda, even if it's my own agenda or in the workplace or whatever it is, it just doesn't work. It's just immediate frustration. It's not even an option almost for me to like when I do go into desire and I do feel that obviously, like and I feel it in my chest, whatever. Like really want to whatever, but it cannot. It just doesn't. People don't receive it well. It just immediate frustration. So I kind of stay in innocence, and when I do that, things are a lot smoother for me. Definitely. Yeah. What are your motivations?
I'm hope.
Okay, hope and
And
desire.
desire, yeah. So I've had like the opposite issue where, you know,
What?
I've had the opposite issue
Yeah.
where I've been more in innocence. And for me, it actually was received well. I've found that when I'm in my transference, like at least at the time, I would say people liked it.
Yeah.
It's like I did well in my business and I'm sure I wasn't fully in transference. Like I think we're always kind of
Mm-hmm.
shifting back and forth and whatnot, but now I just actually have awareness of it. Um, but it was, I don't know, it's like I've had a total 180 since I really started anchoring into my design. And I don't, like, I felt like when I was in innocence, it was like being so floaty and just up in the air. And it's like even my voice has changed and it's really fascinating for me. So yeah.
Defined. Do
What's
either
that?
do either of you have a defined ego?
She does. I'm completely open to.
How does that interplay, or how do you yeah? Because I always yeah I as I mentioned I kind of think of desire in kind of with the ego.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just feels like when I'm locked into something, I think that's a huge part of desire motivation is like being locked in and having an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm.
but I'm also receptive. So it's funny because there's quite a bit of nuance to it because receptive desire is like somewhat similar to innocence. It's very, there's like a very fine line, it feels like.
Yeah.
Because there's almost like this point where, because my trajectory is from leader to follower, there's almost this point where you realize, like, what am I doing? I don't want to have an agenda to be a leader, you know, and it's almost kind of like, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do. And if people follow me, cool, but I'm not attached to it, you know? So it's kind of similar to that innocence vibe of like, I'm just doing me and people see me as a role model or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do notice, like, when I work with clients, for example, I just get really locked in. And there is almost this feeling of like, having an agenda with them. And so I realized, you know, early on in my practice, a lot of people were coming to me like just to have space held. And I was
Yeah.
getting frustrated because I was like, I want to help you make a change. You know, I wanted to show you what's not working. It's that
Yeah.
third line energy. And there was a period of time where like, I think it was when I was going through my own mutation, my own metamorphosis, where my clientele was changing too. And I was starting to get people that actually really wanted to make a change, that didn't just want me to hold space for them and like sit and just be with them, you know? So it's really fascinating, like when you do work for yourself, to see how your clientele shifts as you shift in that way.
Oh, yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, I've been doing these interviews, which I was also initiated to do, and just to like take the temperature of the community or, you know, of people who are interested in talking to me. and they've been really fun, but yeah, it's completely the opposite. Like if I have any sort of agenda, then the conversation doesn't go well. It's the entire experience isn't it's not good for either of us. And so, but then when it's just like more of that holding space and the listening, then it's the entire thing is alive totally. So it's funny that we're on the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I attract a lot of innocence people. I don't know if you attract a lot of desire and motivation people into your life. It seems like something that happens. So, you know, some of my best friends are innocents, my husband's innocence, and I can see that. I can see how when they go into that transference, it just isn't well received. But, you know, it's like now when I do it, for me, it's almost like a way to tell if somebody's correct for me or not. Like if I'm very clearly in my desire and whoever it is like not receiving it well, I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. It's just, we're just not correct for each other, you know, because I know just witnessing like my friends that are innocents, they've had people in their lives trying to put them into desire and like their innocence is not well received. And then that's when they realize, oh, this person probably isn't correct for me, at least not right now, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. It is. Yeah. The whole thing is such a good. I'm reading this book, Essentialism.
Oh yeah,
Did you read it?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just and the whole thing, the whole time, obviously, everything through human, obviously, and the whole thing, like that's what human design is. It's just it seemed well, you know, there's so many things human design is like when people ask me what it is, every single time I'm like, how do I answer this? From an essentialist perspective, it's like, okay, going to your core, and like authentic truth and your authentic self and everything, then it does weed out a lot and you kind of get back to the essentials of like, and that includes people, it includes everything. Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
As four lines, what are relationships? Like, how do you see relationships? Like, what are they for?
Side note, I just want to point out your first line personality.
Also defined head. I'm like, yeah, come with the question.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Aren't we supposed to question you? No. No, it's fine. We're good.
I love it. Do you want to answer that, Brandy?
How do we define relationships?
Or how, like, what do they, okay, so I'll start and I guess you can respond. Yeah, open-ended questions. But so for me, like relationships, less so now, and this is a part of my shattering experience currently, is that, you know, relationships have been like safety for me. So very, like maybe with that security, the four line, whatever. Maybe with the one line, which is why I'm wondering for both of you, because I'm sure if it was more the one that needs that secure foundation, but the four. So for me, relationships in my network felt like security. So if I was tending to my relationships, even the ones that weren't necessarily in alignment, were definitely I need this, because if I don't, then I'll end up homeless on the street alone. You know. I'm wondering, because I know because my personality is that one, which really needs that strong foundation. I'm just wondering your experiences with that and what that journey's been like.
Well, through knowing about human design, understanding all of that, there was like, I've had like mini shatterings of my network, but and it was terrifying. You know? It was terrifying because a lot of that for me came up around not like I don't want to say like entered into in that self theme, but a lot of it was when I was because I'm split definition, and sometimes I would act like a manifestor and initiate all these things. So I would then be reflecting on, I initiated this thing and brought through that this person came in my network. And I would just it'd be like a mind story of looking at it all. But then I would I'd start to follow my strategy and authority, and those things would kind of start to fall away. And I was like, oh no, what if I need something, you know, or what if you need something, or what if I have something for you? That's very much my definition speaking as far as like resources and things like that. Or holding on to like, well, what if we could collaborate on something or connect on something later? But as those like mini shatterings were happening, I was noticing like a stronger foundation coming in of a network, like a true network, not just like transactional relationships, but like authentic relationships. People that were like those ride or die type of people started coming into my life, and through them broadening my network. And a lot of those people are fourth lines as well, you know, like it was replaced with other fourth lines to strengthen this network that I thought, there's this example, right, where this little girl, it's like a story where this little girl has this like fake beaded pearl bracelet. And every night her dad is like, why don't you take that off? And, you know, no, I don't ever want to take it off because, you know, it's my pearl bracelet, blah, blah, blah. Well, one night he convinces her to take it off. She finally feels safe enough to take it off, and he replaces it on the dresser with like real pearls. And so I like kind of reflect back on that as something to like when somebody's like falling out of my network, I am able to trust and surrender enough to know that potentially it'll be replaced with somebody that's more real and more correct for me.
Right. Yeah.
But it's hard because you can't pick or choose or control any of that. And that could even be like significant others. It could be family members. It could be, you know, decades long best friends, things like that. You don't get to be like, oh yeah, that person that I know over here, if they fall out of my network, it's fine, but I'm going to hold on tight to these people, you know? So it's really this dance of healthy attachment and honoring yourself. And for me, that big not self theme in my undefined solar plexus of avoiding confrontation and truth. And so whether it's confrontation with the other or if it's avoiding my own truth. And what I recognized through those mini shatterings where a lot of it was I wasn't honoring my own truth. You know, I was just people pleasing the shit out of my network, and it was all transactional relationships.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit.
One of the interviews that I've been doing, yesterday I was talking to Merlin, I forget his last name, but human design art.
Yeah, the art.
Yeah. But he was saying, he was like, yeah, like human design almost gives you permission to like, or makes people who are not very polite, like manners go out the door because if you're being yourself, you're not like trying to assuage anyone or you know, say things just because they want to hear it and things like that.
Yeah. That's been like so freeing, I feel like, because I too was a people pleaser. And you know what's so interesting over the last couple of years is I've noticed the transactional relationships are gone, but also just noticing like how I felt like I lived in a house made of sand before when it came to my relationships, because my relationships were all connected to my work. So, you know, I've worked in restaurants for a long time. I worked in a fitness studio, and pretty much none of the relationships that I thought were really solid and it was like my people that I had made in those work scenarios completely gone as soon as we didn't have work holding us together. And so I've noticed the last couple of years since I've actually started being myself and, you know, taking classes and going to things where it's like an interest that's holding you together instead of a work situation where it's kind of like you're forced to be together. Those are the relationships that have actually stayed really solid, you know, and become this true network of mine where these people really see me and they really understand me, and it just feels like very reciprocated and not transactional. So, and also, I don't know if this is something that you guys struggle with, but like some of my close friends are third lines. And as a fourth line, I had to just be okay with them like coming in and out of my life. Like I hung out with one of my good friends yesterday and I hadn't seen her in like a year. And I just realized like, holy shit, I haven't seen you since I helped you move last year. And she's the third line. And I'm like, well, I used to take that kind of stuff personally, but now I'm like, that's actually just kind of her dynamic. And it doesn't mean that she doesn't love me. It doesn't mean that we're not close in some capacity. It's just, that's how third lines are, you know, and the fourth line friendships that I have are the ones where we talk every day and we really nurture the friendship, and it's just a different kind of connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Teresa and I met, was through an interest. Sam Zagar's strategy and authority class, like way long, long time ago, over a year ago.
Yeah.
And I guess the idea is, or one of the ideas is that all of our, like, our work as we move along and shed layers and everything becomes the things that are our activities, and they're more aligned. It's that same energy of, okay, this is aligned in so many ways. So the people that are in that are brought to us are also going to be more our people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like sometimes I have fourth lines come to me and they're like, I don't believe in the network thing. Like, my opportunities don't come through my network. I don't have a network.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, they'll be like, hey, that network thing is so real, you know, and it's usually the more that they've anchored into their strategy and authority, and the more that they are being themselves, they're just making the right connections.
Yeah. Before, I think I was completely nondescript. Anyone who wants to be my friend, you know, but that's not necessarily good.
Yeah. And being able to surrender and trust that when we have awareness of, if someone's a fourth line, if you have an awareness of how things come through the network, and not like play it to your advantage, but just bring that awareness with you when you're making decisions. Like, I own a brick and mortar wellness center, and we were going to hire front desk staff. And my right hand person there, she was like, you know, should we put out like an ad that we're hiring? And I was like, no, I don't, you know, like, yeah, I want to hire 2 more people, but I don't want to do that. So I was like, they'll come through my network. I have no idea how.
Yeah.
And so literally, and like an hour after I said that, I got a text from somebody who was like, hey, are you hiring? And I had spoken to him about a year ago, and he wanted to work there. And then it was just like out of the blue. I was like, yes, I am. And yes, I want to hire you. I wanted to hire you for a year.
Yeah.
Then I was talking to my husband at the front desk one night after he was done with men's group. And I was like, hey, just letting you know that we're hiring now. So if you know of anybody. And one of the guys that was in men's group turns around and he's like, I want to work here. And I know him. And he's in my husband's men's group. And I was like, yeah. Like, this is how it happens. Yeah. And Teresa just had an instance like that with a dog sitter, where she was going to hire a dog sitter. And she was like, oh, it's all this money. And another friend of ours, we were like, it's okay. It'll come, like, it'll just hire that one for now. You can cancel it, but it feels like it's going to come through your network. And sure as shit, she had a dog sitter come through her network. And so it was just like really being able to trust and surrender to that. But before you do that and experiment with that, those of you watching, strategy and authority, you know, get right with trusting your strategy and authority in the mundane things. And then it gives you that confidence to be able to surrender into the other things. Yeah. So this spins me into something I really want to talk to you about. Speaking of surrendering, one of your extracurricular activities, you really have to trust that. I see you on those silks. Yeah. And that level of trust and surrender when you're working with those silks is incredible.
Oh, yeah. But before that, I just want to say, Randy, you put a story up about tampons in the toilets, and I am so always aware of where I'm putting so, you know.
Yes, thank you for that. Don't flush tampons, because it cost me like $1,500 to get tampons out of my business sewer. Thank you.
PSA for women.
PSA to the network.
Yeah. Ariel, trusting. Well, I'm consecutive. It forces me into that consecutive flow, because it's really step at a time. Now you're this wrap. Now you're you know, yeah, it's like really, really forcing me into that one step at a time flow. In terms of threat, I mean, because I mean, it's like anything, you learn it again sequentially, one step at a time. So you start with things off the floor, and you get it into your body, so it becomes second nature, and then you go higher. You know, and it's a very one step at a time flowy process. It's not something. It's not like bungee jumping where you just like have to just let go and trust. Because you're practicing it so much and everything. So, um, yeah, I don't know if that completely answers the question, but
Well, yeah, and the way that you talk about that, building up those small steps of trust helps you trust when you're up at the top and you do some crazy thing to get down, you know?
yeah.
It's interesting as a consecutive, as first line personality to have that like solid foundation all the way up and knowing the steps all the way up. It's always fascinating for me to see people's what they do in their daily life and how that I can see that like translated through their design.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like wild because if anybody doesn't believe human design is a thing, it's like you can describe everybody why they do everything that they do, especially when you're looking at substructure.
Yeah, for sure. And then mountains environment for me too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Get that new perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fun.
That's wild. I want to talk to you about your channel of preservation.
Mm.
How does that show up for you? Like, what do you notice, and what if any deconditioning have you noticed come up with that?
Can I actually uh turn it back on you and ask you first, and then maybe I can
Hmm.
on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, when I had awareness of it, I was like, I'm like mother hen nurturing people. Somebody's not well, somebody needs something taken care of, taken food. I mean, like I love to nurture people. What I recognized through living my design was that it was to my detriment and I wasn't taking care of myself. And I actually had to check in with myself and be like, do I actually care? Am I responding to this because I have the energy, or has my mind started to create this story that this is who I am and this is what I do?
Right. Yeah.
And so through that, I've really been able to take care of myself more. And then when I can nurture and nourish other people, it's from this place that's just love instead of a cup that's empty,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's like along with that four line shattering, it was like, oh no, but these people need me. So if they want me in their life and they like me or they're asking me for help or whatever, I I have to do that. It's like my duty to help them and take care of them and nurture them emotionally, whatever it is, or and I completely give myself to them too much. And I was like, well, I'm setting up my life so that I can have the flexibility to come at someone's help, to be at someone's aid. I don't know what the term is, undefined throat. But yeah, just to I'm gonna bend over backwards completely for it, to the point where I'm thinking of one instance. Yeah, it was a really big shattering very recently, like 6 months ago or something. I was over giving to the point where I was like, oh wait, this isn't actually helping, I don't think. And it was a frustration of frustration of energy, because I was pouring so much into it, the situation with some friends, and then it got to the point where it was so obviously unhelpful, and then they ended up like, we completely had to sever ties. So unhealthy. So it's just it's along with that four line thing. It's just I give so much and then realize that it's not actually that helpful. It comes to the point of enabling, um, and yeah, and then also going into friends. Like I remember when I first found out about like health and nutrition and stuff, and I got really into it. This was like over a decade ago. I was like, oh, that desire motivation came in. I was like, everyone needs to know this because it'll help them and it'll really And, you know, I was telling people how to live their lives, which no one likes, especially from an innocence motivation person. And so I had to kind of like step back and be like, okay, well, if I take care of myself and take care of my health, then with that innocence motivation, then people to me, they're like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, you know, and then I can actually help people more than when I'm taking care of myself and when I'm just trying to push it onto someone else. I really feel that coffee. It's like,
Coffee kicking in.
Yeah, 100%. I resonate with that being hope motivation and transference being guilt.
yeah.
And would be like, I can fix this. I can fix this. I can help you. I can fix this. You know, and like, no. Now I'm just like, I hope you ask, or I hope that I have something to respond to. Like, you know,
Yeah.
but funny channel of preservation. I also like, I like to be able to preserve things for people so that I can preserve people when they need preserved. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
like if I have everything, if you were ever sick, anything you need, I have like freezers full of food. And my son left the freezer door open the other night, and yesterday morning my husband's like, Weston left the freezer door cracked open and some of the stuff melted. And I was on the phone with my friend Sammy at that time, and I was like, she was talking, and it was like a really great conversation, but my energy, my sacral was like, nope to the call, and I was just like in full response mode to this freezer, and I was like, I gotta go, I can't, like this, it's like,
Yeah.
she's like, channel preservation, I get it.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing worse than like
Yeah.
what you have preserved, like.
Yeah, part of the when I was younger, like even as young as like 8, I remember having these dates, and I still have them every so often, of taking everyone that I love and putting them in this like essentially a cell where I can watch over them at all times and know that they're all safe. Like all my family members, all of my, you know, close friends. I'm so happy you're nodding at this because it does sound a little insane. But literally like keeping them all in one place so I can watch over their every move and make sure that they don't get their harm point. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm that way. My son's father lives about 10 miles north of me, and we get tornadoes here. And so every time there's bad weather, I just call him up. I'm like, hey, because he used to not have a basement, and I'd be like, you guys got a plan? Just wondering. Hope you have a plan. Like, are you preserving yourselves?
Yeah.
You know? Or the last time we had a storm, my son was here. My son wasn't even with him, but it was like he's in my net. His dad's in my network, and he's also my son's father. So I called him and I was like, "Hey, I just saw that there's like a really high chance there's a tornado going to hit your town. Are you good? Like,
Yeah.
just making sure."
I have that feeling of like something's not complete if someone leaves the house and I'm like, and I don't say drive safely. Like I have to have done that work, done that due diligence.
Yeah, put your helmet on. Preserve, like, yeah. It's not like a fear thing. It's just like preserve yourself.
Oh my God. It's so funny because my parents have this channel as an electromagnetic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like being really good friends with Brandy. I'm like, oh, I understand my parents now. Like it just makes everything makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's a dominance channel in her and I's connection chart. And I love like just witnessing it because I don't understand it at all, you know. And when she was staying with me a few weeks ago, I was like cleaning the grill so I could grill for us. She goes, you know, that can come off onto the grill, like the brush, and get into the meat, and that can be really bad. I'm like, what? Like, it's like things that I have no idea about, but it's like she knows anything that could possibly be dangerous.
I don't know how it works substructure wise, whatever. But and so Brandy, I know that your mom's fear motivation, right?
Yeah.
Like how much of that gets like I wonder, complete conjecture, but if that can get like, oh, the fear motivation expresses it, your mother's fear motivation expresses itself through you through the channel of preservation.
Yeah, I check in with that often, actually. I'm not so much about being prepared as I am like I noticed the difference between preparation and preservation.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, I know that I did have some habits that I
Yeah.
have since deconditioned that were straight up around fear. And now I just laugh when my mom, because I'll post on my stories if you want to see hilarious fear motivation mom stuff, follow me on Instagram. But I'll post on my stories my mom's fear motivation. Like she just got me a Mother's Day gift, and it's an eye mask with earbuds in it. And she was like, you know, just in case you ever want to like take a nap and listen to music and you want it to feel good on your face, and like here's all this like just in case. And I'm but I did notice like I used to like save stuff to be prepared, and now I don't. I just save stuff to like to preserve somebody at
Yeah.
some point.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So yeah.
Fear motivation. My mom's fear motivation too, and she got me like an emergency roadside kit for my car as a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it'll come in handy.
Oh yeah. Yep, I've gotten that too. And one time my mom got me a stun gun and like brought it to my, like when I was opening my business, she's like, I got the stun gun that you can put behind your desk and this pepper spray. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this stun gun? And I accidentally like hit it, like shot it off. And I was like, I am not a stun gun person. Like, I don't think we need this, you know? Thank
How do you use this?
Just like, or here's this emergency seatbelt cutter in case you need to cut off your seatbelt, or window breaker in case you go in a lake. And I'm like, okay.
That just made me think too. I wonder if like, so my dad's guilt motivation and my mom's fear, so they're both like very active and, you know, active motivations. Sometimes I see the crossover there, and my dad is like the sweetest, kindest, gentlest person, and yet he has a ton of guns. Like he's like super Democrat too. Like he's not like the typical gun-toting Arizona Republican. He's an immigrant, you know. But I'm just like, I wonder if there's a guilt motivation thing, because I would think if somebody broke into the house, like that's a guilt motivation thing to be like, I can take action here. I have a gun. Like, you know, that like just kind of clicked for me. That's so
yeah, 100%. My husband's guilt motivation, and we don't share bedrooms anymore. And so when we split our bedrooms, I had an asp. It's something like you like shake it out. It's really hard metal. You can like hit somebody with it or something. He had me have it on the side of my bed. And when he was moving, I was like, he's like, no, you might, you know, just in case. And I was like,
you might need that.
Then you can do something about it. And I was like, I would just hope that nobody comes in our house. Like, that's all I need to do.
Yeah. Have either of you ever been in a situation where you have to do something like that? Like, where you have to take action in that way?
Mm-mm.
Knock on some wood. Me neither, but absolutely, I would just freeze.
Oh, yeah, yes, I have. Recently, last August, my mom died for 4 minutes in my arms.
What?
Sorry, guys, it's a trigger warning. I had a trigger warning.
Late trigger warning.
Late trigger warning. Sorry that yes. And I did not take action. And she came back to life.
Wow. I'm wondering, I don't like, so Teresa, I wonder if you were in that situation and you didn't take action. I mean, if that would have been deleterious, no idea. This is, again, complete, you know, what could have happened. But
I mean, the only situation I can think of, like, I mean, if we're talking about similar to that, I was thinking about like protecting myself in some way. But I have had like dog fights happen. Like I used to have this little dog that was like, had little dog syndrome and would just try to like pick fights with my other dogs. And there was a time where my big dog finally like got her and was like, you know, it was bad. And I did have to, it was like, totally a splenic kind of thing. It was like my mind had no part in it. I just jumped in, like got them apart. You know, my little dog almost died. I had to take her to the ER. It was a whole thing. And I remember my roommate at the time was just like standing there like frozen, and I just leapt into action. So
Yeah, okay. I was now that I'm remembering, I was also witness to a pit bull fight of like two that were in the house, and I'm innocent, and I stood back and did nothing, and the other people, I don't know what their motivations were, but they broke it up. I don't know. Like this is again, no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Somebody asked, did I hope she would be well? When I reflect back, like that's literally what I did. I'm stuttering. I did not do CPR on her, even when the 911 operator was telling me that's what I needed to do. It was like something in my core, my body was not moving to do it. It was like, no, that's not what you need to do. So it was like, I was just like holding her, yelling in her ear, it's not time. It's like, but my body was not moving to like move. Like you would think that you would put somebody on the floor and start doing CPR, and like, you know, when they have no pulse, no heartbeat, all of that, you would think that's what my body would have wanted to do, and it didn't.
wild.
So I don't know. And you know, and it felt like, and I think I've told you this, Teresa, that it felt like if I would have tried to do something, it wouldn't have ended up the same way.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
like, it felt like taking that action would have had a different outcome. I don't know for sure, but
I mean, it's interesting because I think in the moment, in those situations, it's not ever mind, you know? And so I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way of like, if you have a passive motivation and somebody dies in your arms, like, you know, it's like your response is going to guide you or whatever. Your splenic, whatever your authority is, will guide you in that moment. But it's just interesting to reflect back on and seeing how we all handle things differently, depending on our motivations, you know?
Good post.
yeah.
Because even with that one dog fight situation, I was like, oh, and I just like froze, right? And I was like, I need to get out of the way, essentially. But then my mind was like, I should be doing something. And then it should always is the red flag. So,
Yeah. In that situation, in those types of situations that I've had in my life, I really see this clear point where I like pull back and become the observer. Because I remember telling Teresa, it was literally like I was watching myself not doing anything, and my mind was like, what are you doing? Like, but I'd like pull back and watch and be like, whoa, I'm not, like, why am I not doing anything? You know? And I fibbed and said that I tried to do CPR, and then I was like, I did not. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna own the fact that I didn't do anything. You know, it was like that's hard to admit, but it was like just watching myself, like super passenger consciousness, observer, watching, not doing anything.
Yeah.
It was wild, but I had that was an ultimate no choice moment. We talk about no choice in human design, and we all get little tastes of what no choice actually feels like. And that was like, I had absolutely no choice but to do exactly what I did.
Yeah.
It just like standing back in that dog fight, you doing exactly what you did. You had no choice to do that. Your body wouldn't involve itself. With you, Teresa, you had no choice but to do that. People would be like, why would you get in between two dogs? You know?
Yeah.
We don't know.
It's just wild when you can feel that your mind has absolutely nothing to do with it. And those are the moments, like, I feel like no choice sounds like something that is really hard to believe when you first hear it. And I don't think it's something that people should like spend time really fixated on, because you also can't control whether you understand no choice, you know, but you have those moments where you're like, holy shit, the mind really doesn't have any like power over the body, you know? At
Yeah.
least for me at this point in time, that's what I believe. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
question a while ago from somebody about, oh, well, you know, if I have a sacral response and my authority's telling me to do something, do I have to do it? And in that moment, I was like, well, like, you don't have to. Like, you don't have, but you do get to experience the consequences of that. So it's like, and many times over, override my sacral responses or my splenic hits.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that's also part of it, right? That's part of your trajectory. That's part of your learning. And so that's kind of the way I look at it, is like, we need the contrast in order to understand what it feels like to listen to our authority and go with it. You know, we need to know what it feels like to get that feeling and be like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, oh, okay, I understand the white because of the black. You know what I'm saying?
I think we can really see the difference when we ignore, well, for sacral beings, I don't want to speak for everybody, or I'm just going to speak for myself. I can really tell the difference when I ignore a sacral no and try to push.
Yeah.
You know, there's a big difference with that versus ignoring the sacral yes. I mean, yeah, there's consequences, but like almost like the physical repercussions and emotional and energetic, you know, burnout that happens from that are like, oh yeah, I should have said no.
I feel like it's almost harder to ignore the sacral yes, because for me, there's less conditioning around saying yes to things. I have hanging gate 29. I can see you do too, Nafeesa. It's like, that's kind of an automatic. It's just to say yes. And then you realize there's no energy for the thing. And then you have to be honest and try to get yourself out of it, or notice how much it's going to impact the other to pull out of something. But with saying no to something, it's like there's so much that comes up around like not self with that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And splenic with all of us, you know, having spleen definition, like when you ignore those little splenic hits of no and you're like cutting something and it's like, don't, nope. And then you cut it and you're like, fuck.
Yeah. I knew I shouldn't have done that. Because the spleen is so quiet and so quick. It's just like, you almost don't catch it all the time, you know? But like with the yeses, it's almost like, for me at least, like I get so much energy when I'm a yes to something that it's like my body will already be starting to take action on whatever it is, that my mind sometimes has to catch up, like, oh, we're doing this. Okay, I guess we're doing this. You know, there's almost like no room to even say no when it's a yes for me.
Yeah, that might be a energy difference with the MGG thing, because I'm really slow. I need to be initiated a lot into something.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Inertia is strong in either direction, either with something or starting something.
Yeah. And with defined root generator, there, I do notice, like, I'm kind of glad that we have the MG category. It's not its own type, but there is a big difference in the energy of the MG versus the G. And the slow, methodical, gaining mastery in the pauses, you know, I kind of envy that sometimes about generators, because I'm just like, fuck that up, gotta go back, fix that.
Yeah. Those grass is greener moments, because I'm always like, oh, that MG energy. So
Okay. I like went into an open head like spin out last night. I don't know why, but I was like, what are MGs even good for? Like my fucking open ego, just like, we always fuck shit up. We try to go so fast. Why can't I just master something? It's like, of course, it's just my mind. It makes no sense. But yeah, it's definitely grass is always greener, because I see the generators in my life and I'm like, damn, like they're just masters of what they, like whatever they have a response for, they become a master of it. And sometimes with us, that's like the jack of all trades, master of none, or whatever. And you're just like, I can do all these things, but am I that good at anything? And so
I think that phrase has a continuance to it.
It does. It does.
And it makes me feel better about myself.
I mean, I always come back to like we all have our roles, you know, and I've noticed whenever something is correct for me, even though I do get like a running start, it seems like I don't have a problem with going back to fix things. And then that does help me get towards mastery. It's like the more I go back and have to fix something that I rushed, if it's correct for me, then I can stay committed to it, and I can like human design is one of those things. I just kind of like tried to learn in a really shortcut way when I first started. And then I'm like, oh shit, no, I actually really like this. I want to do this for a living. I should go and actually learn the correct way to do this, the correct foundations, all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the saying is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So that is what makes me feel better about it. Which I feel like you just kind of summed up, Teresa, with saying like, oh, go back and fix it, and then I am.
Yeah.
And as an MG, it's kind of funny when people are like, what do you do? And you're like, everything. All of it. I do all of these things. And then people don't take you seriously because they're like, nobody can do that many things.
What are
like,
your determinations?
What are what?
Determinations.
I'm nervous.
Okay.
Oh, I use the determination. Okay, I'm cold thirst.
Oh, cool. Because I was wondering, because with nervous, I feel like that he's very MG to me too. It's like,
oh yeah, I'm always multitasking and doing like 10 things at once.
yeah,
you know, like
or slow. Like one at a time, intensely, and that's it. And then, what about cold thirst and your brain processing?
Oh, I need it all like dumped on me. I need it like quench my thirst, like take it all in. Like I took the foundation courses and I was literally trying to figure out how I could take them all at the same time.
You were.
Because they were so slow. I'm like once a week, twice a week. I need it. Like give me all to me in 7 days. Like let me just like dive into it and then come out on the other. Like then I'll come up for oxygen. Just like I can't do that. I need it like I need it.
Yeah. Well, with that same example for me, consecutive with the foundation courses, I took one and then I retook it again, like by all the Zoom recordings and whatever, and then took all my notes after. I just have to dive in, but for a long amount of time. So if we're talking about like MG, and then also your determination, brain processing versus mine, it's just so much of a slower thing.
Yeah, and also being a first line and like feeling, you know, that insecurity if you don't fully understand the foundation. For me as a second line, I've almost had to be okay with just being a natural at things, because then I compare myself to the first lines and I'm like, oh, but it seems like they know more than me. But then there's just like a very natural way that I have about something, and it's not necessarily like me understanding the foundation that makes me good at it. It's just something I can do, you know. And I've talked to other second lines in human design and it seems pretty similar. It's like, oh, I just picked it up really quickly and like, yeah, I just was like, I can do this, you know. And
I resonate a lot with first lines. I have a lot of first lines in my chart, and so I'm always like about strong foundations and things. And I have a 1-4 emotional generator sun with consecutive determination as well. So it's interesting to see.
Fine with the emotional authority in terms of living through life. It's interesting.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to watch him be in his innocence, and you know, and I'm just like, wow. Yeah. Well, and considering the fact for the first like 2 years of my knowledge of human design, I thought he was a 2-4 due to a genetic matrix glitch, which was funny because I'd always be like, aren't you supposed to be a natural? I don't see it. I don't understand.
Especially compared to Andy, like it's like you live with another 2-4, so you understand how we operate.
I'm like, when does this naturalness come out? Because this is
not seeing it.
But that chart showed alternating determination. So it made his eating still made sense to me. Like the way he took things in still made sense to me. But when it switched to a 1-4, I was like, there it is. That makes sense.
And you're like, he does not like change.
No, he does not. So, go ahead, Teresa.
Oh, I was like, my one desire, motivation, agenda that I had for this live was to talk to you about channel struggle, because Brandy and I both have it, and it's something we talk about a lot. And when she was here recently, I started it's like our schedule gets different when we have people in town or when we're traveling or whatever. And normally I work out on a pretty regular basis, like every other day, because if I don't, there's like this adrenalized pressure in my body that starts to build up, and it like almost turns into frustration if I don't like use it. And I can feel it because it literally feels like adrenaline just like pumping through.
Yeah.
We were talking about it one day, and I'm like, I noticed that if I do something challenging or difficult at some point, like every other day or every day, whatever, it's different, depends. But it's almost like life can flow a little bit more because I'm not looking for something to be challenging. Like I'm not looking for a struggle. We were talking about it. I was like, I wonder if there's any other people with channel struggle that have a similar experience where they find themselves like looking for a struggle or looking for a challenge, or especially with like their physical body, like feeling like you need to do something challenging.
Yeah. That's so funny, because I was like, would I have any questions for them? And the question would be around exercise and all the struggle. Like that is exactly like, it's negotiable in my life. Like I teach aerial, and when I wasn't lifting, ever since I was a kid, like my mom, when she'd see me like get into my head and really be like, okay, like question my life and be like, oh, I need to be like, that she could see it and would be like, go exercise, go outside.
Yes.
Absolutely essential. If I like exercise, it's important for everybody, of course, but channel of struggle, it is a non-negotiable. Like that is the one, like I don't have 515, I don't have any of that, but that is the one thing that I absolutely need for my mental health, to get into my body, just to straighten anything out in my life. Don't have it every day. It's just, I go into depression. It's just extremely bad. And sometimes I'll forget about it. And I'll kind of sit in it. I'll be like, oh, I know exercise would be good, but I still don't. And it's just really bad. What was your question?
Yeah.
Something like
that was
it. Yeah. It's just
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So
yeah, it's interesting because one of my other really good friends, I think her only two channels are struggle and preservation. And
really,
we were talking she goes to the gym every day, and she was like, it's for my mental health, and so it seems like it's a common thing. It's like, because that's what I noticed too, is like my anxiety, like my mental anxiety just upticks. I'm a calmer person. I'm like, when I'm working out on a regular basis, I'm just generally, it helps my moods. I mean, I know I'm emotional, so I'm going to have my lows as it is, but my lows are really, really low when I'm not exercising on a regular basis. And it can't just be like any exercise. Like it can't just be a walk. Like that, the walk is the bare minimum for me to just like be a normal functioning human being. It has to be like, I'm lifting some weights, I'm throwing a kettlebell around, like I'm challenging myself.
But I found for me, and I don't know if this is true for either of you, but because I'm such a slow moving generator, and I really, it's helpful for me to have those frameworks. So I need someone telling me what to do, or if I'm, class, obviously I'm accountable to the people that I'm like guiding through the session or whatever. But I need that outer accountability. So I need telling me what to do, or watching me, or like giving me those things to respond to. I'm not a self-starter in that way at all. I don't know if either of you, what your experience is with that.
I'm kind of a self-starter if I give myself like a start date. Like my route, like I need, like, you don't tell me when, it'll be never.
Yeah.
But with me, with Channel of Struggle, what I was unraveling while I was sick the past couple of days was like this like, is that where my self-sabotage is? You know, when I feel like, you know, we're all doing this inner work and figuring out where we're sabotaging ourselves. And I'm like, do I just need to work out? Is that the thing? Am
Yeah.
I choosing this crazy mental struggle because I don't, you know, I'm afraid of the potential that will unleash when I have a healthy channel of struggle, like,
Yeah.
legitimate. And not only do I notice that these external struggles seem smoother when I am pushing my body physically harder, lifting, things like that, like intensity, not necessarily cardio, but like intense, heavy, that type of stuff. Literally, the external struggles like don't even show up.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not, you know, if we're generators walking around as giant magnets, I'm not even magnetizing
Yeah.
an external struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really interesting to me because I have not been working out since that whole thing with my mom. It kind of like slowed me down dramatically. And I'm just like, oh, no wonder I feel like, bleh. And I was talking to Teresa about that. I'm like, shit. And then like all this external struggle, I'm like, oh, it's because I'm not challenging my body. And when I feel into it, I feel like I just want to like lift heavy shit with my legs, specifically, like with my lower body. Like I just want to like push heavy weights
Yeah.
and do heavy things, and not to like build a physique. I don't give a shit about that, but it's like get that energy going.
Yeah.
So as soon as I'm fully recovered, I'm going to just start
Yeah.
hitting that, and I'm going to experiment.
The leg part is huge. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, you know, if we're thinking about where the root is and everything, it's definitely a big part of it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, this is
And
cool.
and when we think about, like, Teresa and I are really big into energy medicine and how the body is connected to all these things. And when I notice my physical body, my legs are weak. So it gives me hip issues, you know, and I'm like, all I have to do is like build this strength in my glutes and my hamstrings and all of that, you know, all of that stuff. And that could actually support me in life if I'm so driven by a solid foundation, but I'm not giving my physical body a solid foundation. Do I actually think anything in my external is going to have a solid foundation?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm choosing the struggle of the external right now. Or not choosing. No choice.
Yeah.
I feel like my motivation for working out, or whatever we want to call it, I mean, I have an open ego, so it does tend to come and go. It's like some days I'm like really motivated, but I don't know. I feel like the feeling I get, it's almost like I've had to learn the hard way what not working out does.
Mm-hmm.
To like, that's what motivates me. That's like the intrinsic motivation that I have, because it's just like, I'm like, you've done this a million times before. You know that you're much healthier and happier when you're doing this on a regular basis. So
I feel like I get a lot of the motivation from, like, maybe it's a fourth line body type of thing, but like joining a gym or like a
Yep.
or whatever,
Yeah.
or with others, and that's I ride off of their maybe ego motivation or whatever it is.
That's what I've always wondered too, because I do have some workout equipment at home because I used to be a personal trainer, and I tend to not, like, I'll pick something up a few times, you know, and then I'm like, nah, but I have to like go to the gym and be around everybody else's energy in order to really like get a solid workout in. So I would definitely agree with that.
Looking at, like, so I'm 6-line body, and I'm just like, oh, here's my excuse for why I haven't been doing it. I'm just collecting some wisdom in that area.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Well, kind of in the lining wisdom too.
Yeah, I have all these stories. It'll be like from hope and all that, and these wonderful transformational stories. And I'll be like, yeah, but it was crazy going through that.
Yeah.
The struggle was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I don't do it for a while, even if I know that I need it, you know, I still kind of have to be initiated back into it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, something to respond to. And that's what I got when I was in Phoenix with Teresa.
Mhm.
We were talking about it, and all of a sudden my body was like, I want to lift some heavy shit with or push some heavy shit with my legs, like right now. It was just like, I am responding. And then I get home and I'm like, yeah. And then I get sick and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, like this gym I just joined. One day I didn't have a car and I was like gonna take the bus to work and I was like, you know what, my body wants to walk, so I was like walking
Mm.
instead of taking the bus. And then I look to my right or whatever, and there's this gym. It's like, oh, free intro class or whatever to get back into strength and conditioning. And I was like, oh, great. And then ever since then I've been doing it, and it was because my body wanted to walk and didn't want to take the bus, and so
Mhm.
just
There you go.
Yeah, see, that's why we really need to pay attention to those mundane things that we're responding to and trusting that and honoring that, because from there, it's not about the outcome. Because if your mind would have been into stories, if you walk, here's what's going to happen. And you're like, oh, I'm not going to because I don't want that outcome. It's just about the experience. And then it leads you to the next thing. It's like following breadcrumbs.
yeah, fun. Oh,
Awesome.
loved finding out about Oprah. Did you? So she's a generator with an undefined throat, which I thought was so cool because
Wow.
she would have a defined throat, but because she's always responding to people, it's always interviews. It's not necessarily her just talking at us. I thought that was really cool. And then she also has this saying. I'm on an Oprah kick right now, but she has this saying that okay, universe will first send you a whisper in the ear and then a tap on the shoulder, something like that, and then we'll hit you with a 4x4. And that was
Hmm.
Wow.
describing it because it's like when we're in those frustrated places, like thinking back to my job situation or whatever, it's like it's getting worse and worse. I'm getting these little hits, like people are telling me all this stuff, but it's really it just builds and builds and builds, and then the universe is throwing things at you, like telling you have to get out. Um, anyways, I just had to bring Oprah into it.
Yeah, very, very consecutive for you to be on an Oprah kick.
But
Yeah. It just made me want to
Um,
look up her chart, and I'm like, wow, she has a lot of rightness.
yeah.
She's our same variable quadrant.
mm,
Mm.
yeah, and
Cool.
and with that, that's a saying that we often use with energy medicine too. Like with your physical body, you'll get a little tap, and then a poke, and then a smack. So you want to listen for that tap and respond accordingly. Because if you don't, then just like my hip has been bothering me for like a year and a half, and I'm not listening to it. I'm trying to bypass it and do everything else I can except for lift weights. That's exactly what I need to do. Like, shit.
It was so funny because my feeling cognition picked up on that with you. And you had told me, like, oh, my massage therapist said I need to lift. And I was like, I was feeling that.
I know, I'm a split deaf, so could you just move up here and we could work out together? Thank you very much.
Working on it. Love it.
Someone's asking in the comments about innocence motivation. If you go back and watch the replay, we talk a lot about innocence motivation in the beginning. So, yeah. So Nafeesa, if people want to work with you, what are you currently doing? Are you taking clients, one-on-one sessions?
Yeah, I'm doing one-on-one sessions. I'm doing couple sessions. I'm doing ones for children, well, for parents who want to talk about their children. Um,
Mm.
if, yeah, in an innocent way, you know. Uh, but right now, through June 15th, if anyone's interested in just like chatting for an hour, I'm just like interviewing people. So that's a way. Yeah, so you can go to my website, alignedreadings.com, or all the signing up for an interview thing is on my Instagram. So,
I might take you up on that child thing. I mean, I obviously can read a chart, any chart, but I think it would be cool to do that with my son, hearing from somebody with I like pairing people with like designs,
mhm.
so that that lived experience just lands a little bit. But maybe I'll sign up and do something with my son and have him on the call so he can
Yeah.
feel more seen, you know?
Be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we will put all your contact or we'll put your page in the caption. So if you're watching the replay of this, go to the caption. You can go follow Aligned Readings here on Instagram or go check out her website.
Thanks.
And check out all her reels and her posts because the reels are great. I love a fellow reels queen.
Thank you. That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for getting all jacked up on coffee and hanging out with us and asking us questions because we fucking love questions too. All right. Well, awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us and thanks for catching the replay. And remember that all of our episodes are on YouTube. And I just want to throw this in this episode that if there are Human Design Coffee Talks here on Instagram that are not loading for you or not showing up at all, check us out on YouTube. All of the episodes are up there. Awesome. All right. See you later. Thanks for joining us.